The Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, were adopted by all United Nations member states in 2015 to end poverty, reduce inequality, and build more peaceful, prosperous societies by 2030. Many of the global challenges to development are especially salient for the children and youth. It is their future that depends on how well these SDGs are adopted. Where do our children or the youth stand today?
There are still a lot of kids
that can't go to school
because their families
can't afford their education.
Other kids have to walk a long distance
and even cross rivers and climb mountains just to go to school.
A lot of kids cannot go to school because the parents don't have money.
People are using up the world's resources
without thinking of the consequences,
like global warming. We have a lot of natural disasters
like super typhoons and forest fires
that destroy the livelihood and homes of many people.
People's waste are reaching the oceans,
killing turtles, fishes, and other marine life.
The number of animals are getting smaller and the food supply is getting smaller.
Why do you think their numbers are getting smaller?
Because they're getting endangered. The people have been cutting the trees in their habitat.
A lot of people are getting sick,
especially because of COVID-19. Everyone is affected.
Yung ibang people hindi makapunta sa hospital pag sick sila.
What is the ideal future for our children?
Sana lahat ng bata ay mabigyan ng pagkakataong makapag-aral.
I dream of a future where no kid gets left behind.
I hope people can start doing their part in saving the earth
by doing simple acts
like recycling or bringing our own water bottles
for our beverages.
Our family has learned not to use plastic bags, and I just hope others learn how to do that too.
Sana walang bagyo na makakasira
ng mga pinaghirapan
ng aming magulang.
I wish for a greener environment. Less pollution.
I hope governments and people work together
so we can fight any virus
or any sickness
that comes our way.
I hope that everybody has an access to medicine and proper nutrition.
Sana may pagkain mga pamilya para wala nang maglimos. All of the kids have to stay healthy. We dream of a future where every child thrives.
Every child lives in a clean environment.
And every child has a fair chance in life.
Now more than ever, we must work together
to make the world a better place,
to ensure healthy lives, improve access to education,
to combat climate crisis.
Aligned with the Atram's mission to engage, inspire, and collaborate
to build a financially secure future,
we are committed to building that future where no one is left behind.
We have adopted 3 out of the 17 SDGs,
aiming to make a positive impact,
as well as ingraining more responsible
and sustainable business practices within Atram.
At Atram, we value our children's dreams. Let's make it happen for them. Through the Atram Sustainable Development and Growth Fund, we'll invest in companies that embrace sustainability and believe that this is key to a better Philippines and a better future for us and our children.
If we be nice to our planet Earth will be nice to us.
Invest to thrive. Invest together.
Hello and good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining this week's episode of Atram Webinar Series. I'm Kevin Soto, Digital Analyst at Atram, and your host for the day. Today's featured fund is the Atram Global Financial Feeder Fund. So stay tuned to learn more about this fund and how you can take advantage of the growth of financial firms with the Atram Global Financial Feeder Fund. So if you have questions, you may send them as early as now by clicking the Q&A button below your screen. Before anything else, I'd like to let you know that this session will be recorded and that copies will be disseminated within the day. as well as posted on all our social media platforms. Also, please don't forget to visit our website, www.atram.com.ph, for more detailed information about all the funds that we offer. And if you have any friends who you think would like this webinar but are unable to attend, feel free to share the YouTube replay of this session. Visit our YouTube channel, Atram Studios. Also, we would like to invite you to join Atram's new official Viber community group, that's hashtag AtramPH Community. Stay updated on the latest announcements, advisories, and reminders. Scan the QR code or visit this link, that's bit.do/AtramPH, and get a chance to win Atram merchandise. Join us for an interactive session after the webinar where we'll discuss key takeaways and do Q&A. Don't hesitate to send your questions in the Q&A tab all throughout the webinar, as we have a special surprise for all of you. Each question sent is actually a raffle entry for a chance to win Atram merchandise. Winners will be announced at the end of the webinar, so make sure you stay tuned until the end, all right? Also, we will be sending a quick feedback survey after the webinar, so we do hope you can share your thoughts with us about our session today and how we can improve on our webinar series. With those out of the way, let me briefly introduce you our research speaker this morning, Atram's Product Development Manager, DJ De Jesus. So DJ has been in the financial industry for over 7 years, going around from the back, that's audit, advisory, risk management, performance measurement, and accounting standards, to the front, investment analyst and trader. He now focuses on developing products old and new of Atram. He has been in the firm for 4 years and is constantly looking for innovative investment ideas to continue Atram's legacy of innovation. He graduated cum laude from the University of the Philippines with a bachelor's degree of business administration and accountancy, and is a charter holder of the CFA. So now, let me hand you over to DJ. Hi DJ, how are you doing today?
Hey Kevin, good morning. And good morning everyone. Great to be here again. Thanks for the opportunity to be able to show this awesome fund at the right time. Medyo meant to be, diba? And it hits. We're a financial company. Atram is a financial company. So, okay, wala nang paligoy-ligoy pa. Let's talk about that big...
Let's get it on, DJ.
And how to take advantage of it using this fund. Sorry, am I coming off unstable?
No, you're okay. You're fine, DJ. Go ahead.
All right. Thanks. So we've been talking about how we're in a new chapter today. So medyo psychological, pero ini talaga natin, T21, things can only get better. Pero it's not always the case. COVID cases are rising, inflation is beginning ba tayo ngayon? The Philippines is not the only place we world that currently, if you get economic activity up with the more relaxed measures around the globe, pati rin crudo umakyat. Oil prices rose 17.8% because of excess snowstorm, inventory supply shortages, and a recovery outlook. Industrial commodities are also up with the improved manufacturing. And the fixed income market began to price higher rates because of inflation. While central banks are still very accommodative, the vaccine rollout has led to the optimism in the economy, particularly in the US. And even the US Fed revised the growth forecast upwards to 6.5% from 4.2%. So that's actually close to emerging markets, in part due to the fresh stimulus packages by Biden's administration. However, parehas yung magiging recovery around the globe kasi hindi lahat ng mga bansa sabay makukuha yung vaccine. Tingnan mo yung Pilipinas, medyo kulelat pa tayo sa vaccine. So medyo tatagal pa ng kaunti yung recovery story ng Philippines. So there are two factors for rising interest rates and hindi siya nagkakalayo. The first factor is growth, and that's coming currently from the economic recovery. And second is inflation, which is coming from the higher demand for oil and other commodities for industrial use. So medyo expected kasi nagbubukas tayo ng mga economias natin, di ba? But if history is to be counted on to repeat itself, well, there's no other place but to look at financials. Isipin natin, the last few financial and market crises, like the Asian financial crisis, the global financial crisis, taper tantrum, and the oil slump. And what they have in common is that one of the most battered sectors during those times was financials. But in markets, what goes down must come up. Medyo baliktad, di ba? But that's the reality of a business cycle. Cycle nga, di ba? So, ito rin yung tinatawag din ng mga analysts na sector rotation. And it's during this time of recovery to expansion that financials really shines. You could look at the insurance sector in 2013 when interest rates rose from 1.8% to 3%. Insurance companies outperformed global stocks by 48%. And if you see the fall of stocks, especially nung COVID-19, the height of COVID-19 nung March, you'll see that ang laki ng binagsak ng financials. But with everything that falls, there's a lot of room to recover. But why? Baka yun na yung tinatanong nyo, financials. Let's look up what makes financials. You could see in the pie graph on the left that those are the sectors within financials. And almost half of it, halos kalahati nun, is banks. And then following that, about 1/4 of financials is in insurance. And both of those sectors benefit during rising interest rates. Ang banks medyo madali. So if you look at how their business model works, di ba pag maraming tao nangungutang, if you get the interest rate, kung rising interest rates, yun na yung interest revenue nila for their loans. So kung tumataas yung interest, pwede nila taasan yung interest rates na pinapautang nila sa loans. And doon tumataas ang tinatawag ng analyst na NIMs or net interest margin. Basically, kapag tumataas ang interest rates, tutubo sila. Sa insurance naman, medyo hindi halata, pero there are a couple of reasons na pwede mo tingnan para malaman, maganda yung pagtaas ng interest rates for insurance. First is, mas nagiging attractive yung mga life insurance products nila. Kasi normally, may rate of return na nagagaranty for their products. And sa liability management nila or pag tingnan, pwede sila mag-hold or mag-invest into higher interest rate long-term bonds, diba? And finally, with higher rates, they can charge also higher premiums to the plan holders. Pero ang kagandahan ng financials, diversified sector siya. Hindi lang siya banks, hindi lang siya life insurance. Meron din yung property and casual insurance, you have consumer finance, and you have capital markets. And different ang paggalaw niya sa market. If you look at banks, okay din siya kapag tumataas yung ekonomiya, di ba? Pag gumaganda yung ekonomiya. Kasi mas willing mangutang mga tao. For life insurance, mas okay din siya pag taas ng markets. Kasi, for example, VUL, di ba? May investment na nakalakip sa VUL na yun. So, kapag tumaas yung value ng investment inside the VUL, tataas din yung value niya. So, that's another place where you could work. Or consumer finance, na parang bangko, better kapag tumataas yung ekonomiya kasi mas marami nga nangungutang. Pero hindi kagaya ng bangko, hindi kaganda kung tumataas yung interest rates kasi ayaw naman nila na mangutang at higher rates, di ba? And tapos may capital markets pa or asset management. Ang Atram is part of capital markets or asset management. And okay kami kapag tumataas yung market. So maraming areas pwede mo ilaro sa financials. And if you're a portfolio manager in financials, you could look at what's happening in the economy or what's happening in the markets. Tapos, malalaro mo siya. So, this slide is for all the people who track kung medyo mura or mahal yung isang stock. Paano ba masasabi kung mura or mahal? Normally, people look at a indicator called the price to earnings or magkano ba yung presyo kumpara sa makukuha niyang tubo usually in 1 year. And the higher the number, the more expensive. So if you compare financials to other sectors, siya yung pinakamura. Siya yung orange na nasa pinakakaliwa. And even if you look at the history, sobrang mura talaga ng financials. And it makes sense. Marami na kasi hindi nagtitiwala sa mga bangko after the global financial crisis. Sila rin yung nagsimula, di ba? But what people do not give enough credit to is what regulation has done to provide more solid banking systems today. We owe it to the BSP locally and all other central banks for all the regulation that is being done. And financials can actually go beyond financials. You look at this long-term trend, it's called Fintech or financial tech. And here at Atram, we've leveraged on that. That's why you have Seedbox, an online platform for you to invest in our products. But the fintech revolution isn't just there. You have digital payments like GCash, Paymaya, or if you go globally, you have the Visa, MasterCard, PayPal. That's the digital payments revolution. And you also have like these digital currencies or cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum. So we use this slide in our webinar for consumer trends, and smartphones really is making, tech closer to us. And with that comes with the rise of e-commerce. And as with consumer trends, we know that e-commerce was turbocharged during the height of the pandemic. So it's no surprise that e-payments as a part of e-commerce is a growing trend as well. The US is currently at 64% card penetration, credit card penetration, and it's looking to grow to 78% penetration in 5 years. Digital payments as a part of consumption is now at 63% penetration, and it's forecasted to grow significantly. And one more area of growth is emerging markets. When we're looking at the global growth, the prime benefactor is usually EM or developing countries. And this is becoming even more true because of how the EMs, or actually Asia, has been handling the virus. But you want to be selective as to which countries have the logistics to receive the vaccine faster. That said, growth for emerging markets have proven to be higher than developed markets, especially in times of growth. Think 2017. And if we look again at price to earnings, that measurement of seeing how cheap or expensive something is, emerging markets remain cheap compared to developed markets. Another thing is that unlike developed markets, there are still people that are unable to utilize banking. So there's still a lot of room for growth for financials in the emerging markets. Tingnan mo na lang yung asset management industry in the Philippines. Kasi ngayon lang, nagkakaroon tayo ng access to global funds like this. So you can take advantage of all these ongoing trends in financials through the Atram Global Financials Feeder Fund. The fund invests into BlackRock's World Financials Fund, but you can invest in this fund using Philippine pesos. By investing into this fund, you can participate in the recovery story post-COVID-19 through one of the cheapest sectors. Plus, this fund goes out of the sector to look at and its revolution. The fund also looks at the emerging markets for additional growth. We're showing the next slide, this slide, again, but the expanded scope of this fund. The fund is able to leverage on the long-term trend of fintech and also add REITs when the times are actually getting better. REITs or real estate investment trusts are able to leverage better when the economy becomes rosier. And because of the sector rotation, you want to be able to play financials. You have to be active in this space. And what this fund provides is active management. There's a lot of balloons here that you could see that shows the important changes to the portfolio. But the most recent development is the significant reduction of bank exposure. If you remember the slide a while ago, banks are around 50%, but they cut that to about half of the exposure, around 25%. And they moved that to fintech and consumer finance. So fintech is not in the index and consumer finance is just a small part of the index. This allows the fund to provide better diversification than just going to a financials ETF or passive strategies. So on this slide, you could see that there are a lot of familiar companies that you probably already know. You have the insurance giant AXA, you have banks and asset management like Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, and Morgan Stanley. And JP Morgan is a competitor of BlackRock, the target fund manager. But they recognize how good their competitor is. We have JP Morgan funds also here in Atram. And you have credit card companies like American Express and MasterCard. And then you have one of the most reliable digital payment systems around the globe currently, which is PayPal. Pero hindi lang yun eh. They invest in names that you probably are not so familiar with, pero they have interesting investment propositions. For Fintech, they look at companies like the credit card company Capital One in the US. They're currently like the 6th largest, and they are better able to benefit from the growth of digital payments. Or maybe Synchrony Financial that uses its retail partnerships with like Lowe's, Amazon, PayPal, and they even have a parang care credit. So they have a healthcare play as well. And speaking of retail, you have Shift for Payments, which is a leader in digital payments for the hospitality business. So over 21,000 hotels and over 125,000 restaurants use the services of Shift for Payments. And for emerging markets, they have Ping An Insurance, which is one of the largest financial holding companies in China. And we all know about the China consumer story and how they're really doing well because of the pandemic or after the pandemic. And they have a growing finance business. They also have the Lazada/Gcash of Kazakhstan called Kaspi. And they took profits on companies like Ika in China that supports multiple e-wallets to provide offline digital payments to small or micro businesses like convenience stores and restaurants. And finally, you have XP Inc., which is a low-cost financial services platform in Brazil that has over 1.5 million retail clients. Sana ganun kalaki din yung seed box, no? In this slide, you could see that our global thematic funds are doing well. It's the proof is in the pudding. This year, our best performing fund year to date is this one, the Atram Global Financials Feeder Fund. Everyone has already consumer trends and global technology in their radar, but financials is outperforming both of them. That said, all our global thematic funds are doing strong this year, and it's a testament to our understanding of the long-term trends that are moving markets today. So why the Atram Global Financials Feeder Fund? First, it's the access and diversification to global financial names that we don't normally have locally. Yes, we have the banks, but we don't have access to insurance, asset management, and fintech when we invest into the PSEI. And the second thing is being able to participate in the global recovery. Because financials, as we said, benefits from both recovery and expansion. And finally, the fund has both cyclical growth, like the banks and consumer finance, and long-term growth within tech. So you have a good balance of growth, whether short-term or long-term. So we hope that you will consider the Global Financials Feeder Fund as part of your investment portfolio.
Thank you for that, DJ. Very informative and insightful as always, no? Thank you for discussing the Atram Global Financial Feeder Fund. So besides that, Atram has a wide range of investment products, and our capabilities span across several asset classes, meant to service the different investment objectives of each individual. For today's session, we hope to have somehow assisted you in your investment journey. And we would like to move on to the live questions from our audience. So I can see we have several questions coming in, no? All right, let's move to the first question. The first question is actually very interesting for me personally because I come from a fintech company before. So if you could let me know, how does the fund manager consider a company a fintech company ba? Ano ba yung may mga qualifications ba tayo dyan na tinitignan or yeah, go ahead.
Actually, when it comes to deciding whether a company is a fintech company, medyo simple lang. They want to see that 30% of the revenue comes from fintech or digital payments or that kind of scope. So if 30% of the business is able to generate revenue from that area, from fintech, then they already consider it a fintech company, whether that's a traditional bank, or traditional insurance company or traditional asset management company, or if it's an IT service. So think Shift for Payments. That's a good, IT service that is financial in nature because it involves digital payments.
All right, thank you for that. 30% pala, no? I was thinking about 80 to 100, but that's just me. So the next question naman, very timely and very technical. So what's the view on non-performing loans in the banking sector, in the global banking sector actually, given the pandemic?
Well, if you talk about the pandemic, if you saw last year, even in the Philippines, you would have seen an upward trend in non-performing loans. And that's natural. It was a financial crisis. A lot of people were losing their jobs. They couldn't pay. But with the vaccine rollout, and if you look at what happened with the US already forecasts growth of 6.5%. That's amazing. That's almost like emerging markets. And that just also shows that even in the labor market where less people are able to claim for unemployment, more people are getting jobs and more people are working again, that will bring down non-performing loans down. That said, I think we're still in the early stages. In fact, the portfolio manager Vasco Moreno believes that in the developed markets, even the US, loan growth is still anemic or hindi pa masyado tumataas. And that's why they're still underweight on that side. They're more focused on the consumer finance side, and they're more focused on the fintech revolution because people are still, consuming nowadays, diba? Although, at home. So that's the kind of growth that they're looking at.
Well, that's the beauty of fintech anyway. Like we're able to transact, digital payments even at the comfort of our own homes. So that's very nice, no? At least even during the pandemic, we're still optimistic na our economy will soon, things will get better soon, no? Right? So my next question is on Atram Global Financial Feeder Fund. Does the fund have investments in cryptocurrency?
The fund currently does not have investments in cryptocurrency, and that's more because of regulation. People are still understanding cryptocurrencies, and the regulators want to also understand how to regulate it. Even the BSP, they're very open to understanding cryptocurrencies, but at the same time, they need to. So currently, it's not part of the investment universe, but there are ways to play cryptocurrency. In fact, one of the companies that this fund invests into, it's a bank called Silvergate. And like other banks, they do like FX transactions where you could change your money from dollars to like euro or yen. But this particular company is very interesting. They rode the Bitcoin wave, and they do Bitcoin money exchange, so dollars to Bitcoin. And during the time when Bitcoin was rising, late last year in 2020, the fund, or at least the stock, Silvergate, was able to benefit from that. So very exciting. It also plays that kind of fintech where if you're leveraging on the cryptocurrencies and that growth, it could still play that.
Right. So, given all the regulations and everything to consider, do you see it happening in the next few years or so, or matagal pa talaga siya?
Well, it depends on how fast regulations will understand cryptocurrencies. That said, we have like here in the Philippines, we have the PDAX, diba? The Digital Asset Exchange. So I think things are looking up for that area as well. And a lot of people are already looking, okay, how do we invest into cryptocurrencies? It's a very interesting field.
Thank you for that, DJ. So the fourth question is, should we wait first before betting on rising interest rates, given that the Fed said earlier that they will not be rising interest rates until 2023?
They won't be hiking rates. So interest rates can already go up with them without hiking. The reason why they're not hiking rates is to be more accommodative, to be able to spur more growth, para lumaki yung growth. But the thing is, with more growth comes inflation. So parang those two come hand in hand. So if you look at interest rates, you can split it to two parts. One is growth, one is inflation. So kung tumaas yung growth, tataas din yung interest rates. Kung tataas yung inflation, tataas din yung interest rates. So even if the Fed is being accommodative, so that on the short end, short-term rates will continue to stay low. If you look at the growth number, 6.5%, then you could assume that a big chunk of that will be reflected in the interest rates as well. And then you also have the inflation that's also ongoing. So another thing that needs to be discussed is financials doesn't only benefit from rising interest rates. They benefit from recovery and expansion. And we're in the space we're in. We're seeing global economies recover. And that's perfect for financials, whether that's consumer finance, banks, or even fintech.
Thank you for that, DJ. A lot of interesting questions coming in. No? I'm looking at it right now. Keep the questions coming in, guys. Very interesting. Thank you. So the U.S. Fed, DJ, has just announced that they will not raise interest rates in the short term. And it is assumed that the Philippine government will follow suit. However, given the current situation, rising inflation is more likely to occur. So the question is, how do we strategize our investment portfolio to get the most of that scenario?
Well, given rising inflation, one of the things that you have to be a bit more heavier on, especially if you have a portfolio allocation, is really equities. Kasi equities are the ones that are able to combat inflation. If you look at your fixed income funds, most of them, especially in the Philippines, are down. So because they're not inflation hedges, fixed income funds, they're not inflation hedges. What are inflation hedges are equities. So you want to be also selective on the equity side. And one of the better funds to look at, especially for inflation, is financials because it benefits from the recovery and it benefits from expansion. It's one of those sectors that really works, especially during these times. Did I answer all the questions, or could you repeat?
Yeah. I think you're good. So there's another one regarding the Atram Global Financial Feeder Fund. They'd like to know, DJ, ano ba to? Is this fund available in US dollars as well?
Currently, the fund is only available in Philippine pesos, and it's only currently available in Seedbox, but who knows? Later on, stay tuned. We might have it on GCash as well.
All right, that's good to know. Okay, so another question here is, how much the minimum investment and holding period? That's interesting. A lot of people want to get in on the fund.
The minimum investment for this fund is only 1,000 pesos. So for as low as 1,000 pesos, you could already benefit from global financials, right? The minimum holding period, none of our unit investment trust funds or none of our UITFs have holding period. So you can easily go in and out of the fund. Of course, we do recommend that for any investment, especially equities, you want to hold it longer term. And if you believe in the story of fintech, you believe the story of emerging markets, particularly Asia, and you believe in the recovery story in general, then this fund is perfect for you.
All right. Okay, yung next question natin, DJ, medyo nakaka-intriga siya. I'm very excited to know your answer here. So the financial fund has a large stake at insurance companies now, as you mentioned, and a large part is at the US. So given the pandemic, wherein there are a lot of debts, isn't the insurance industry at risk at this period? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. With regards to the insurance industry, yeah, you have a lot of debts, but that's more towards the banking sector, diba? It's really on the non-performing loans. On the insurance sector, when economies are recovering, that's when people, start to think, oh, now I have a lot of cash flow. maybe this is the best time for me to start adding to my insurance. Maybe it's the best time to protect for the future habang gumaganda yung economy. And more people will start thinking that way. And that's the kind of trend that you'd want to be looking out for, especially now, that growth trend. And you also see that capital markets are growing, diba? So since November of last year, we've been very positive wherein there's a broad-based growth in equities. And that's also positive for insurance companies that are now using a lot of equities to be able to fund their insurance liabilities moving forward. So overall, it's actually good for insurance companies.
All right, that's good to hear. I hope that's clear to everyone. I think we're down to our last question, DJ, but this is a very simple one, and I think. So, how do you open an account and invest in Global Financials Feeder Fund?
I think we have a segment later on to tackle that. But go to atram.com.ph, and there you could visit the Atram Global Financials Feeder Fund. You click it, and then there's an Invest Now button that will lead you to cbox.ph so that you could invest in the Atram Global Financials Feeder Fund.
Right, thank you, DJ, for your time. No, as usual, very informational and very insightful. Thank you. So at this point, we would like to move on to the I think, yeah, sorry. At this point, we will now be moving on. So thank you to our audience for all your questions. So please stay tuned to find out if you're a winner in today's raffle. Before we wrap up, any last words, DJ?
Thank you for supporting. Thank you for supporting Atram. Thank you for joining the webinar today. If you have any questions, please reach out to your relationship manager so that you could learn more about our funds and what we can offer. Thanks.
Thank you, DJ. I'm sure you guys are interested to learn about how to invest in Atram funds. So please tune in to know more.
Hello. To open an account with Atram, just visit our website at www.atram.com.ph. Here, you can learn more about all the funds and services that we offer. Our site will then guide you to our online investment platform, Seedbox, where you can start investing for just 1,000 pesos. But if you have more questions, visit the website's Frequently Asked Questions page or Atram Academy page. Thank you.
There you go. If you have any further questions or would like to learn more about Atram, please visit our website. That's www.atram.com.ph. As promised, here are the winners of our Atram merchandise. Congratulations, guys. So we will contact you directly through the details you provided during registration, and we'll let you know how you'll be able to receive your prize. Moreover, in case you have not registered for a webinar next week, Call Financial Group's founder and chairman, Mr. Edward Lee, and Atram's Chief Investment Officer, Mr. Philip Hagedorn, will be joining us for a special webcast entitled Social Emergence, the Rise of the Retail Investor and Its Significance. You may do so by scanning the QR code flashed on the screen. Scan away, guys. You will also type in the link found on the left side of your screen. We also have webinars lined up for the rest of the month. Please do tune in for that. Again, if you have any friends who you think would like this webinar but are unable to attend, feel free to share the YouTube replay of this session. Visit our YouTube channel, Atram Studios. Again, we would also like to invite you to join Atram's new official Viber community group. That's #AtramPH Community to stay updated on the latest announcements, advisories, and reminders. Scan the QR code on your screen or visit the link, that's bit.do/AtramPH, and get a chance to win Atram merchandise. Lastly, please answer the survey at the end of this webinar. We would love to know your thoughts on today's topic. Again, on behalf of everyone at Atram, thank you again for your attendance and participation. We wish you and your loved ones continued health and safety. Have a great day, everyone.